Let's begin. All right, welcome y'all. This is training number 3 out of 5 that you'll get on this challenge. As time goes on, we'll be touching on different things, and as time goes on too, and I do more challenges, this is I want to say the 5th or the 6th door knocking challenge that I've done. I like keeping it fresh and not following a script. That way every challenge is unique, But a couple things I wrote down today, strategy-wise, things to do at the door, some tweaks that you can make to your questions, right, to really up your game and open conversations a little bit more, and then something that you can do with particular people that you meet at the door that I think is key. And I want to start with that because I think it opens your mind a little bit when it comes to door knocking, and it takes it beyond just regular lead generation, okay? Because when I do anything, let's say it's door knocking, my mind now, and this developed over time, was always on the wavelength of what else is missing here, right? What else can I do or get from this activity? So as an example, we're taught traditionally when you go door knock, hey, blah, 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 knock, knock, knock. Hey, you're looking to buy or sell. No. Well, one thing I added, and this is something you guys can do, is if you have somebody who's a homeowner who doesn't want to sell, how about you ask them, do you own any other properties? I don't know many people who actually are intentional about asking that. Have you considered getting an investment property? Do you know about the process? Do you know what it would take? If you could qualify to get another house and start paying yourself every month in income, would you do it? Do you know what it takes? Because most people are going to say no. They don't even know the process. Say, great, let's do this. Then what you can do before you door knock is create a basic info sheet or spreadsheet on what it would take for somebody to invest in their first property. A lot of people don't even know that they can pull an equity line of credit out of their home. What if they use that to buy units and they cash flow? I mean, possibilities are endless here. All I'm saying is that was one additional question I can ask, one additional angle that I can create when I go door to door that opens up a different conversation. Because if I don't open that door and they would be open to do that or consider that, but all I ask them is, hey, do you want to buy or sell? And they say no, I just lost out. Even if I get their information and I don't ask that and I don't throw that up or bring that up in the conversation, you never know. Remember what I said yesterday and the day before. It is up to you to take the lead. The conversation goes and flows the way that you want it to go, period. If you say little or only open one door opens. They're not going to willingly open all the doors for you. You have to open those doors with your questions. Okay? So that's one thing to consider. What other angle can I create? I would do the same thing when I would cold call absentee owners, right? Which is a strategy I recommend you guys do. If they don't want to sell that property, well, do they want to buy more? I then ask them, what are you cash flowing on that property? What if we could increase your cash flow? You're cash flowing 3 a month right now. What if you can get 6,000 a month or 7,000 a month? Have you created a plan for that? Different level of individual I'm talking to who's an absentee owner. They own multiple properties. They have money. They're probably a business owner or something like that. I can come at them as well with additional questions from a financial perspective. But I can do the same thing with a traditional homeowner, because a lot of people that you come across that look unsuspecting are sitting on some money. They have inheritance. They have other properties, but they're just not thinking real estate. We make this assumption, especially those of us like me back in the day that are newer, or maybe you don't have a big book of business, you don't have a lot of experience. We have this inner feeling like people know more than us. They don't, right? But unless you let people know, you ask questions, and you explore through the conversation, you'll never know where it can go, okay? That's the first one. The second one is this. You guys are gonna, as you go door to door, and you go business to business especially, but in particular door to door, you're gonna meet people who either have side hustles or have businesses themselves, okay? They own a clothing brand, they own their own shop, right? They might own a gas station or a mechanic shop, right? They might own a barber shop. They might own XYZ, a restaurant. You don't know. What I wrote down here, and this is something that I did, was I wrote down interview and collab with these people. Every single one of you should be posting on social media. We know that, right? But a way to facilitate that, and not only do that, but create content for your database, is to do that. When you come across business people, help them promote their stuff, interview them. Hey, come on my podcast. Hey, I'd love to sit down with you and interview you for a couple minutes. 10 or 15 minutes and ask them, how did the idea start? Why did you start this business? What interests you? What do you offer? Let them talk about themselves, right? You promote it to your database. You promote it to your people. You can put it on your social media. Now you become the spokesperson for local businesses in the community too. This is in addition to what I told you about yesterday, going door to door for the businesses. But guess what? You're already door knocking anyway and meeting these people. Why not do this? If all of you don't have a podcast, you should start a podcast. You should start a podcast. And these are people that you can feature on there for sure. You can take pictures with them. You can do stories with them. Hey, I just met so-and-so at the door. He sells socks, custom, unique socks. Here's his profile. Hit him up if he needs anything. Guess what? Now they're going to follow you now. Now you're going to get their information. Now you just added somebody to your database. Like easily. Why? You're offering them the value of promoting their business and having a chat with them about it. That's simple. You would think that that sounds innocent, but very few people do that. Everybody's in this mode of how can I take, but not thinking of promoting other people and helping them and giving them a shout out. This is another reason when people DM me, like on Instagram or email me, and they're like, hey man, I just started my podcast. Can you come on? I'm like, sure, why not? I appreciate the hustle. I support the hustle. Let's do it. Even if I'm their first podcast and they have no idea what they're doing. I've even had some where I do it. Then they message me later, dude, I forgot to record. Can we do it again? I'm like, yeah, why not? Because I've been there and I've made those mistakes. But that's me supporting a business. Why? I've grown my own business and I know what it takes to grow your own business. And it's not easy. Simple, but not easy. All right. So again, these are just a couple of add-ons that you can put out there while you're doing it. I mean, I met people who, you know, at the end of the day, like I remember one guy I met, what was his name? Richard was his name. I met him going door to door. We talk, we have a short conversation. And in the beginning, he was very hostile with me, right? But he opened up, he was cool. End up finding out he's like, you know, an old like army vet, whatever. Long story short, I end up befriending him. He ends up inviting me to go golf with him and his buddies. This is in Orange County in LA, right? I met him in LA. He lived in LA, but he would golf in Orange County. And he invited. I was like, you know what, dude? Yeah, I kind of want to learn how to golf. And I'd go with him like once a month or every 2 or 3 weeks. So guess what? I infiltrate his circle. I met him door knocking. I befriend all his friends. And I did some transactions with them. And simultaneously, I learned how to play golf. And even though I offered, he always paid. He always paid. Even though I said, no, dude, I'll pay. He's like, no, no problem. You know, you're my invited guest. Come have fun. So I didn't have to pay to be a part of the little country club or golf course. Even though I offered, right? He taught me how to golf. I met his friends. I went out with them every once in a while to like events too. They were all older, right? They introduced me to a ton of people. It was pretty cool. And I did transactions with them and I added them all to my database. Pretty cool. How did I meet him? Door knocking. Door knocking. Now he ran another small business at the time, but I think he ended up leaving that. But that's originally how this type of conversation started. But these are the things that you have to always be mindful of when you're going door to door or prospecting in general, because you never know, but especially door to door because you're meeting them face to face. And it's infinitely more powerful to meet people face to face. Okay. Remember that. Okay. So those are the first two. Here's another one I want to discuss real quick. Some basics on this, because this is, I believe, the most important thing when it comes to going door to door that a lot of people miss. Those of you who are still newer, the number one mistake you're going to make that in the beginning you're not going to be aware of is how you carry yourself and your body language. Okay. And that is the number one indicator to people in general, but especially well-studied people like me, of your level of comfort when you're going door to door. Okay. We covered some stuff yesterday, right? The smiling, the 1 or 2 little moves here and there. So I'm not going to repeat that, but I'm going to reiterate it and tell you to go watch that lecture again, because those are extremely, extremely important. All right. First things first, to get out of your car, you start. The number one thing that you need to check, and 99% of the population fails at this, and it's so simple, but it communicates much more than you think. It's your posture. Okay. We live in a world where everybody's like this. Okay. Now, most people are so bad. I already see people in their 20s and even their 30s already like developing like the hunchback because they're always looking down at their phone. Stand up straight. Check yourself before you knock on the door, right when you get out of your car, in between the homes. Constantly check yourself until it's automatic for you to stand up straight. This is very difficult for most people. Okay. We've become so accustomed to having bad posture that we don't even realize that our posture is off. Okay. I also recommend that those of you who are working out, if you're not working out, you better work out, right? You have to at least a little bit. What's up, homie? I got a guest here. Do, if you can, once a week, some yoga, because a lot of the postures in yoga work on opening, which is what you need. If not, go to a regular door, right? Open it, put your hands on the sides like that and lean forward and allow yourself to stretch a little bit. We keep our shoulders too forward and we don't have enough balance there, right? Doing pull-ups helps you with that too, strengthens the back and the lats. It pulls you up and opens you up. That's what you want. It also allows you to breathe more deeply. Whenever you get tight or nervous, you become somebody who's short of breath, right? And that causes you to concave too. You want to open, okay? Open. You're showing your throat, you're showing your chest, your stomach. This displays confidence, but it also physiologically changes something chemically in you. You feel more comfortable, you feel better, you feel more at ease, okay? There's associations with particular stances in physiology and your emotional circuitry, okay? It's just like if I tell you to smile and hold the smile and try to be upset, it's not gonna work, okay? That's that. The second one is this. When we're newer or we're nervous or we're not comfortable, we tend to be very erratic with our eye contact with people. The worst thing you can do when you're at the door is like looking down, looking away, because it demonstrates weakness. And another one that really is detrimental is lack of interest. When you don't keep eye contact with people, it demonstrates lack of interest, especially when they're talking and you're waiting. If you're over in la la land daydreaming what you're going to say, like, make sure you guys can see my eyes. Like if we're talking and you're like this, trying to remember what you're going to say, I'm looking at you like, dude, this person doesn't even care what I'm talking about. It almost makes you upset in the moment. Now I'm used to it. So when I talk to people and I get bad eye contact, I just kind of giggle to myself because I know how normal it is. But to the average person, they think that you're disinterested. They think you're not paying attention, and it's not good. Remember, you knocking on the door, you're already fighting an uphill battle. You're a stranger, you're interrupting something probably. So they're already coming out skeptical. You add all these other things that you do wrong, not smiling, bad eye contact. Now they're closing the door. Now they're not feeling comfortable. They're pushing you away. Okay. Another one is this. Remember that move that I told you guys yesterday? You know, right when you start talking to them, if you have something like a flyer, you stand next to them, like you get close to their space and you come out. Another one that's key is, and this may be difficult for you in the beginning, but it's something to put in your notes to work on. You need to be very mindful of people's vibes when they come out, right? Some people, when they come out, you can already sense that they're comfortable by what they're doing. They're coming out relaxed. They're making eye contact with you. They're smiling. They're pleasant. They have a good energy to them. With those people, you want to push the envelope a little bit to bridge that gap of comfort with them. If I feel like somebody's vibe is good, I'm already going for the handshake or some kind of contact like that. Why? That's what friends do. When you're with your friends, you put your arm around them, you pat them on the back, you'll shake their hand. The kinesthetic aspect of it, the touch, is at a very comfortable level, okay? When a lot of people meet, they tend to not break that touch barrier because there's not comfort yet. By already breaking that barrier quickly, you make people a lot more comfortable with you, okay? It's the same thing if I'm standing next to them and doing the flyer thing and showing it to them for a second. I may say something like this: do you know the neighbors here? And I may tap them on the shoulder while I do that, right? If you ever want to, in quotes, get away with touching somebody like that, tapping them on the shoulder or touching them like this, what you do is, while you do it, you put their attention somewhere else. So if I'm going to point to a neighbor and place my hand on their shoulder or tap them, if I'm pointing away and tapping them, that's going to be accepted, okay? The issue that we make is we go to make contact and we stare at it. That makes it awkward. It's not going to work. Imagine I go to touch your shoulder and I'm just staring at you the whole time, right? It's weird. You're going to be like, get away from me, you creep. But I could literally point somewhere else and maybe even put my arm around you for a second and then let go. And it's not going to be a problem unless I'm awkward about it. So whenever you draw attention away from a touch, a slight nudge or something, it's more accepted and more acceptable. Okay. But when you can break a touch gap with people, it makes them more comfortable. All right. Now, again, if you're a stone cold beginner and you still can't make eye contact, I would jot that in your notes as like a future thing to do. Because especially at the door, the worst thing you want to do is put somebody in a position where you're doing something awkwardly, right? Like you're going to have to practice that later in person, right? And later on, once you're comfortable, you can work on it, right? But in the beginning, remember, we got to take steps to this game and there's levels to it. Another one I want to discuss with you real quick is spacing. Remember what I told you in the previous lecture. If you get somebody who's being very dismissive, that's the word, in the beginning when you're talking to them, as you're talking to them, if you sense them pulling away, either physically or with their words dismissing you, as you're talking, take small steps back. Okay, I'm not saying you sprint backwards. Take small steps back as you're talking, and you'll catch that hook point, like I said yesterday, where now they're like, okay, they're talking to you. Either they're going to step out, they're going to stop closing the door, they're going to lean in, right? That's a big indicator. Somebody's talking to you and they start going towards you or leaning towards you. That's an indicator of interest. Me stepping away from you or dismissing you is an indicator of disinterest. Okay. You match what they give you. If they give me an indicator of disinterest, I give them an indicator of disinterest. All right. What's associated with that beginning portion too, that's huge for your body language, is you want to be perceived as not a threat. This is why standing up straight and open means you're not a threat. Another move you can do in the beginning, if somebody's really pushing you away, is like raising your hands. Right? Hey, I'm just stopping by, blah, blah, blah. Like, what do the police tell you to do? Freeze. This is to prove that you're not a threat. Right? Hey, I was just stopping by. I went to go talk to one. I literally will do this if somebody perceives me as a threat, and smile and all the other stuff that I've told you. Why? I'm open. I'm demonstrating that I'm not a threat with my body. That's what you want to do. Like, great. That's a great one for the guys like me. If you're going alone or it's you and your partner, and then somebody opens the door who happens to be a woman and maybe she's smaller or older, they may perceive you as more of a threat. So you want to be as non-threatening as possible. Right? You feel that's okay to do with opposite sex stay-at-home mom? Well, it depends. It depends. Right? I'm not just going to be like, oh, hey, and then give them a hug at the door. Nice to see you. But if I want to make a quick point and I'm standing next to her and I do this to her shoulder, like this is the mic, hey, look over there, there's nothing wrong with it. All right. The only way that's going to be a violation is if you really do something wrong. You would have to do something very inappropriate. Right? Very inappropriate. Me touching a shoulder or shaking a hand is totally acceptable in 99.9% of cases. I mean, that would be inappropriate if maybe their 10-year-old answers and I give them a hug or something, right? Like, we would have to talk extreme examples, right? But again, if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. That would be my recommendation. Okay. I'm just kind of teaching you guys something you can do in the future and work on now, maybe role playing with your partners, and ask them. Start with like a role play or do it with somebody that you meet locally and say, hey, man, let's drill this thing and let's work on breaking the touch barrier. And you tell me at any point if I do something, if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Like the drill you can do with a guy. This works every time. If you want to know what that barrier is, that bubble for space, do an experiment with two guys and just stand face to face and walk close to each other. And you'll see, once you start getting within 2 or 3 feet, you start to feel like, get away from me, right? That's an instinct that we have. Same thing with the touch that will trigger if it's appropriate or inappropriate. That same distance that makes us uncomfortable here, face to face, like I told you yesterday, if I wheel around and go shoulder to shoulder with you and I talk to you like this, it's not going to be a problem. But as soon as I face you like that, now you feel like it's a threat. And all it took was me pivoting and tilting. What is that? 90 degrees? That's it. Right? But these are all the little tricks that you can learn that you refine as time goes on. Same thing if I lean in to give them that handshake in the beginning. If they're a good vibe, I'm going to shake the hand. Then I'm going to take a step back again. Enter their space, get out. Right? Those are little moves you want to do that escalate the comfort building process. What I'm looking to do here, as much as possible, and I'll give you more right now, is I want to erase this stranger to stranger feeling and interaction and mirror as close as possible two friends interacting. Okay. This can even be traced back to how you knock on the door. It'd be incorrect to knock on the door like, That's a cop. That's an aggressive knock. How do friends knock on the door? They're not going to knock 3 times in perfect uniformity, right? They're going to do it a little bit differently. They're going to, or hey, right? They're going to do something. They're not going to stand right in front of the door, right? Some of these things that I've told you to do. They're going to probably step back a little bit or go to the window and wave. They're going to be friendly, right? They're going to be doing things a little bit differently versus a stranger coming up is thinking, oh my God, what do I do? I'm going to ring the doorbell once and stand all stiff and, you know, have my little clipboard. We want to do that. Same thing with like the script, right? You guys have a script. What does your script say? Hello, my name is Bryan with eXp Realty. How are you today? Right? Like that basic shit. You don't want to say that. Why? Salesman. How would a friend say hi to them? What tone would they say it in? What rate would they speak at? That's what I want to do. So when I start with saying you're the owner, yes, we can say that's sales, sure, but I'm doing that with intention. I'm being assumptive about it, and I'm asking it a different way. I'm not saying, hi, is the owner available? Then I'll say, yeah, my name is Bryan. I'm cutting short the script to sound less like a salesman and more friendly, like we're just talking. Same thing when I call on the phone. If I'm looking for a Mr. Johnson on the phone and the person who answers is a man, I'm just going to say, hey, John. Because a friend would say that. The moment you say, oh, good morning, is this Mr. Johnson? They're like, okay, here's another fucking salesman. And they already put you in that portion of their brain that says, I don't want to talk to this person, right? Little tips and tricks. Hands, right? Man, this is a big one. This is a big one. Whenever you guys are door knocking, right? When you're standing, one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is with their hands. Okay. When you're standing at the door, do not put them in your pockets. Okay. Do not rest your arms behind your back. The moment people can't see your hands, you're perceived as a threat, especially if you're a man. What you need to work on, and you do this at home and it's not a problem, right? You do this at home and it's not a problem. Practice when you're at home first, standing straight like I am right now, and just having your hands by your side, relaxed. I don't know what it is about people feeling comfortable, but they can't do this. They can't just stand there with their hands like dangling by their sides without having their thumbs in their pocket or one hand in the pocket or hands on their waist. Just get comfortable in public, standing there with your hands by your side and like your feet shoulder width apart, standing up straight. If you learn to do that, your comfort levels in your own skin will catapult, but simultaneously, people are going to perceive you differently. Because if your hand's in the pockets or hand on the waist, you come off as uncomfortable to people. It's the same thing when we go out to a networking event or you go to any venue where people are, whether it's the day or the night, and everybody has their hands in their pockets or they're just fidgety with their hands and they don't know where to put them. Okay, it's not a good look, but most importantly, your physiology changes. It's an indication to yourself that you're not comfortable because at home, you have no problem standing up straight, sitting at the sink, right? Standing somewhere in your home, maybe even watching this lecture with your hands by your sides. You know, if you have a stand-up desk like me, maybe you'll put your hands up, but you're relaxed. That's the number one posture you need to learn to emulate. Standing up straight, feet shoulder width apart, and hands just like this by your side. You know, you'll have that natural kind of bend that your hands have, and that's it. You're not grabbing one arm. You're not folding your arms like this, right? Like think of all the things that people do, especially like what cracks me up is a realtor pictures. They'll take pictures like stupid. It's stupid. That's like the dumbest pose. I don't know who came up with it. You look dumb. Now, some of you may have that on your picture. I recommend you change it immediately, right? Even the way they cross their arms in the picture looks silly. It's not even like a natural cross. It's like this. It's like, what are you holding, a baby? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Now, I know you guys have some questions. I'll get to them at the end, right? It's weird. Like someone said, role play too. I'll bring a person. Maybe I'll see if I can do that for Friday. I'll role play with a person like live while we're on the call. That way you guys can hear it. I think that would be the best thing to do. So I can show you too with the camera. Maybe I can take it off and show you, hey, this is how I would knock on a door to kind of emulate it the right way. Cool. Yeah, it's silly. It's silly. But all that shows me when I see those pictures, I just see this is somebody who has no idea what they're doing. Like those realtor pose pictures, they're just being told and they're just copying other people. That's not what you want to do. Okay. Cool. That's that. Let's roll a little bit now into one more strategic thing, right? I mentioned something yesterday or Monday, one of those 2 days, about when I do come across somebody, especially like a potential buyer or a seller, but when you're knocking, it's more than likely going to be a seller. You may come across people who are like, yeah, maybe I want to sell, but it has to be this price. I know the neighborhood's 600, but I want 610 or 620, or I don't want to go on the market, right? They'll give you some sort of story where they may have some interest, but they're not like 100% motivated, or they don't want to follow the typical process, right? This is what you need to do. If somebody ever tells you that, ask them a few questions and say, okay, cool. You want 620. So if I bought a buyer right now, willing to pay you that, you'd be willing to sell. Yes, you're not going to waste my time. So if I find that person and bring them here, you're ready to go. Yes, absolutely, Bryan, I'm ready. Cool. Make note of it. Okay. Because what I start doing, and this is how you become a master with your prospecting. Okay. I make lists of buyers and sellers that are in quotes in those situations, unique, whatever you want to call it. Hey, the seller wants 620, this address, this name, this is the phone number. If they find a buyer for this, they'll sell today. And then I'll put the date, right? And I have these rolling lists of people who have these unique criterias or want to do a pocket listing or whatever. Because I know traditionally we're told throw those people away. And in some cases, you're right. I'm not going to spend extra time with this people, right? Okay. But I'm going to make a list. I'm going to make a list. And I'm going to have these lists of sellers and buyers. Why? As time goes on and you meet new sellers and buyers, you're going to be able to connect. So the next time I get a buyer who has specific criteria, who maybe they're not ready now, or they're being really picky. They want this particular neighborhood, right? What do you think I'm doing? I'm getting that buyer, then I'm looking, hey, this list of 100 sellers that I have here, are any of them in that neighborhood? And then maybe I'll find that one. Then I can call that seller and say, yo, I got something, and put a deal together, or reverse, right? I may have another seller in another neighborhood who wants to sell, and then move to another neighborhood where I have another one of these sellers who's unique about it, and I can string it together. And then I might have another buyer who fits for this seller, right? Now, I'm not taking extra time to do this, but effectively what you can do is you can become a connector. I've strung together before 3, 4, 5 transactions in a row off market because I'm able to put these people together. Now, it's going to take you time to build these lists because some are sellers, some are buyers, and then criteria, in a sense, has to match for you to put them together. But this is a way that I kind of collected these Hail Mary cases and said, perfect, I have something that I can do here in the future. And over my first couple of years, I didn't put any of those deals together my first year, but by my second and third year, I started putting 2, 3, 4 deals together a year. And that kept going up as time went on doing this. Then I taught my team to do the same thing, because you never know what's going to happen. Same thing if you guys happen to meet an investor who maybe isn't a super active one, but when you qualify them, they do have a lot of money and they do own some property and they're looking for a specific thing, a plot of land, a particular subdivision, right? A mixed use type of property. You can write that stuff down and put them on the board. That way, if you do ever prospect or do mailers or marketing and you come across that opportunity, you can link that person up with them. I've done that with investors a million times. And maybe they themselves aren't big time investors, but they'll snipe that one little deal that I find before anybody else because it happens to fit their criteria. So this is like a bonus thing you guys can do that you'll start creating as you door knock with these particular opportunities, right? The most common one for me was either an expired who maybe wasn't that motivated yet, but if I brought them a buyer, they would sell. I've done a few of those. Or let's see, Slater asked, what if they say they want to sell but nowhere to go and don't believe off market is effective? I mean, they're not really leaving you anything if that's the case, right? I mean, I would dig maybe when they say nowhere to go and ask, is it because you can't find a home where it is that you want to move? Or is it that you genuinely don't have any desire to move anywhere else. And if they tell me they have no desire or we really don't want to move anywhere else, then that's not a seller to me. I want to hear, well, yeah, we would maybe like to sell, but inventory is low and we want this specific subdivision in XYZ city and we can't find homes. And sometimes we look online. Ooh, that's a potential one. Because then if I'm door knocking in that area and I find a seller, now I can put it together potentially. But I always confirm, I qualify them and I confirm, if I put this together, are you going to waste my time? And I want a hard, no, we're ready. Good. That's what I want. I'll always push to make sure that they're for that position and they're not going to waste my time. Because if I don't get a stone cold, yes, we would do it, I throw them away. Right. But ideally, I would always get that expired, or I would get somebody in the case that I just gave to Slater, which was, we want to move here. Even before the market got super tight with inventory, I would still hear that, you know what, we really want to move, but there's like this 2-block radius that we want a house on, or this one subdivision of 500 homes. We only want to live there. So as I was canvassing those areas, maybe I would come across a potential seller, even if they weren't ready now. Let's say they told me they were ready to go in 3 months. Like, you know what, we're not ready now, but we'll move in 3 months. Even if they're not like a special case, I already have a buyer. And I would say, look, this is what we can do. If you want, we can lock it up now and you can be ready to move. And we won't even have to go through the whole process. That's an option. Or we can wait and put it on the market in 3 months. What do you want to do? And if they say, oh, we would rather not go through the process and you can lock it up now, I'll get that buyer and put it together. But the key is I've already met that other person and I can potentially bring them in. You see, this also gives you kind of a unique value proposition, right? I'm offering something that not every other agent's going to be able to offer. Now, you're not saying that directly. It's being communicated indirectly through this action of what you're doing. And I tell people I'm a connector. I talk to people boots to the ground and on the phone every day. So there's a potential that I could connect people off market, give you a better deal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Let's see. Mike says, one of the most common objections I've been getting is along the lines of, yeah, we can sell high, but then we have to buy in this market too. Yeah, well, what's the next step? That's only relevant depending on their next step, right? If they're going to buy their next house and then stay there forever, does it matter if they pay 500 or 520? Right? Now, in some cases, right, I'm giving you different scenarios here, Mike. If somebody's upgrading and going to a higher price, them waiting actually works against them. If I'm selling at 400 and then buying at 500, and every year the prices are going up 10%, that's $10,000 that first year that I lose in equity. Had I bought that year and got 10% of equity at 500,000 versus 400,000, I would have gotten 50,000 in equity versus 40,000. So me waiting actually hurt my pocket. Now, in the end, that $10,000 is pretty insignificant if you ask me. But what's the end goal? The only way I would say that's true is if you want to buy right now, move, and then you want to move again in a year or two, maybe the market will shift. I don't know. But if you're going to stay there, most people stay, 7-9 years or something like that. Is it really a problem? How about if they're going to finance? Interest rates are going up and you see a small bump in the interest rate, right? Compared to prices and all that. Like if they want the market to crash and the interest rates go up like 0.5 point or a point, prices have to go down a lot for them to have that same payment. Okay. And if it goes up, well, if you plan on staying there for 10, 20, 30 years, like you said, if you pay an extra 0.5 point or a point in interest, how much extra are you going to be paying a month over the lifetime of the loan? So although Mike presented a great question, what you guys need to do is zero in on that client situation and present the scenario that's relevant to their situation. Because I can make an argument based on what they said that we can sell high, but we have to buy in this market too. I can make an argument if I really wanted to logically for either case, for maybe you should wait in certain scenarios or no, you shouldn't. That's where you guys have to open up the conversation. And the more you know, and the more you ask, the more you can kind of peel back the layers of that. Now, a lot of times I'll tell you guys, when I hear that, a lot of people, that's just the next excuse that they use. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, oh, I'm not going to buy now because of blank. The market's too crazy. Oh, well, this, like they always come up with a new excuse. So by me questioning that and really digging, I can find out if this person is just a spectator or if they're actually somebody who needs more information to be able to make a decision to say yes or no. if that makes sense, right? So you have to do these scenarios, right? And think of these situations. Are they downsizing? Are they upsizing? Right? Because if they're going to downsize, as an example, and they're going to retire forever, well, yeah, you might pay a little bit more for the next house, but dude, you sold at a massive profit. You just cashed out 800,000 and then you bought a house for 300. You got 500,000 in the bank, bro. I mean, I'm painting that picture. Is that really a bad picture? Now, if you want, we can have a discussion about what to do with that 500,000 to maximize it. I can totally help you with that. Maybe create some cash flow, right? But we really have to open up those conversations, because I would say, look, you're going to net 500,000. I mean, in your mind, what do you want to net? Well, we want to net 520. It's like, dude, 500,000, 520, like, give me a break. We can at least have a discussion about that. And then I can show them, hey, forget the extra 20,000 in this case. What are we going to do with the money? Right? Let's say you get 520 or 500. What are you going to do with it? Because if it just sits there in the bank, it doesn't matter if you have 500 or 520. That's basically the same. What if we can take that 500 and invest 200,000 of it, and we can cash flow you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 a month in income paid to you? Because once you sell, you guys don't have an income, right? I'm just running a scenario here. Well, what are you going to do to survive? Because that money's going to keep going down every month. See, now it's not about the 500 or 520. Now I've reframed it to a completely different conversation. See, but this is what you guys need to do to get people's minds off some of these things that in most cases is insignificant to them and their situation, because that's really what it is. The market in most cases is much less important to somebody than the actual interest rates, because most people that you deal with are going to finance. And a lot of people are kind of on that border of, yeah, I can make the payment. You know, my DTI is like 40%, 39%. And if that interest rate goes up a quarter or a half a point, they can't qualify for that house anymore. And that's something you can ask. If we wait and in 3 months, you can't qualify to make this move, are you going to be okay with that? Now, if you are, great, no problem. But if you're not, then we need to have a discussion and do something now. All right. Now I'm putting in that moment justified pressure on them based on their wants and their needs that they describe to me. Right. So I call those guys exploratory conversations. That's what you have to do whenever you get objections like that. Okay. Good question, though. Chris, how you'd handle this? I like the idea of potentially taking equity, potentially getting an investment in property. Yep. Okay. You already kind of answered that. What's up, man? Give me a second. $1031 as well. Yep. Do you bring anything or leave anything? I guess that depends, right? If you guys ever want to get in the mode or do it as a strategy where you leave something, like some people do door hangers or they leave flyers. Number one, you need to understand that whenever you leave anything, the odds of people actually holding on to it are slim to none. The majority of the time when you leave a flyer, a door hanger, a business card, I would say upwards of 80 to 90% of people, maybe more, grab it and throw it in the trash. Like they'll do this. Boom. Okay. They're not like, oh, Bryan left me another door hanger. Let me go stack it on the table with all the other ones, right? Like they're not, unless they really like you or know you, they're not doing that, right? It's just me being realistic. We can have a more discussion about like farming and leaving people potentially something more useful, like a notepad. You can do that. But what I would say is, like I mentioned in the previous lecture, if you're going to leave anything, it has to be strategic, right? You have to think. Like the example I gave you of the guy who in that luxury subdivision would make those like wine openers, wine bottle openers, those metal ones, right? That had like the little arms on them. That's specific for that. And he would do it, I think, like once a quarter or 2 or 3 times a year or something like that, right? If I go the route of leaving something, it would be that. The only other thing I've seen people leave, but I haven't asked them specifically in regards to statistics of like lead generation and deals, was like market updates and statistics. Like the people who mail stuff out every month to their subdivisions that they're farming, they'll leave some statistics. These are just listed, just sold, but that's the basic stuff that you guys pretty much already know. That becomes a game of, do you have the bankroll to fund doing that? And can you do it consistently? Because if you guys are going to mail or drop anything, You have to already map out what is it going to cost, how much time am I going to invest, and what is the potential outcome that I can get from it, right? And what are my expected returns that I want? Because for every dollar that I invest, this is my rule of thumb, I want at least a 7x ROI. That's my rule of thumb. For every dollar I invest, I want at least 7 back. That's my rule. Other than that, in regards to going after particular leads, right? I'm going to go down and rifle down these last 10 or 15 minutes today, some of the strategies that I did and how I incorporated door knocking and did my best to maximize it, right? So number one, because I was new and I was hungry, I was always looking for like the low hanging fruit, like the expireds and the for sale by owners. So I try to combine both. I said, okay, I looked at cities that I wanted to specialize in. Right. So let's say I'm here in Miami. I wanted to door knock like North Miami, Biscayne Park, and I don't know, Miami Gardens, right? Which are 3 kind of cities in the north section of Miami. So I would say, okay, so I'm definitely going to go in those areas. Now, how can I go within those areas and be a little bit more specific and target? I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to map out every day. I'm going to go after the new expireds in these areas. So let's say I find 3 new expireds in North Miami and 3 in Miami Gardens. That day, I'm hitting those 6. But what am I going to do to maximize my time? I'm going to map them out the night before or very early in the morning before I start and say, okay, expired number 1, I'm going to drive, stay there, knock on that expired. But immediately after that, I'm going to knock on 20 doors around it. 5 to the left, 5 to the right, 10 across the street. Okay. Then I'll get in my car and go to the next one. I want to maximize my time as much as possible. Okay. If, as an example, parallel to this, let's say there's a neighborhood 30 or 40-minute drive away that I want to specialize in. Well, I have to think that's a lot of drive time to go somewhere. So if I'm going to go out there, I better strategize to maximize my time and say, I need to have enough stuff to knock there. So I'm there for at least 3 hours to maximize that time that I'm investing out there. So map out, 4, 5, 6 expireds. Now, the beauty of it is I would mix old and new. I would hit the new expireds, but I would also hit the old expireds. I would hit some new FSBOs in those 3 areas I wanted to dominate, but also some old ones. I'd mix and match and I would knock doors around it to maximize my time more. So if I'm driving 30, 40 minutes somewhere, I'm spending at least 3 hours there door knocking and lead generating. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. You're pretending to prospect, but you're driving. Because I knew people that would drive 30 minutes to knock an expired. They'd knock that one door and drive back. I'm like, dude, you're wasting your time. You got to get out there and talk to people. You prospected for 3 hours and you made 3 contacts. That's a waste of time. Right. Another one that was extremely profitable for me, but it takes a lot of work, is the approach of doing the hot market in those areas that you want to work and working the more just listed, just sold approach. Because when I started, kind of like now, there wasn't many expireds and FSBOs like in Southern California when I started. So let's say I loaded up the dialer, new expireds, I'd have like 8. And I'm like, fuck, I can call all those in like 2 minutes with a dialer, right? Obviously, I have to do something else. So I would incorporate in my calls and on the doors. I'd go to these neighborhoods and I would look, what neighborhoods are hot right now? I would start looking on the MLS. What neighborhoods and zip codes and pockets am I seeing a lot of sales? Right? That's where I would go. And I would either do a just listed, just sold script, or I would do the hot market script, which you can find on YouTube. And I think it's even in the script book too. Hey, we've had 63 homes sell here in the last 30 days. Did you know? Market is hot. That's more than 2 homes a day. You can even condense that and say there's more than 2 homes a day selling in the city right now. Did you know? That's a pretty cool way to summarize that instead of saying we've had 63 homes sell here in the zip code of 91313, right? Same thing if I do a just listed, just sold. How do I tweak it? I don't say the home on 155 Elm Street just sold. I look up real quick the owner information on the MLS. It usually will have the owner's name. If not, look it up on the title real quick. My title rep allowed me on the website to do a quick title search. It would take me 2 seconds and it would give you the owner's name. Mr. Johnson's house sold around the corner. Did you know them? That's my approach. Oh yeah, we knew Mr. Johnson. Yeah, 3-bed, 2-bath, just like yours, sold for 600. That's a much better approach than I'm stopping by to let you know that 1665 Elm Street, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just sold last month for, right? 2 different things. One, my angle is a little bit more local, and friendly. The other one is 100% going to be perceived as a salesperson, right? These are examples of the small tweaks that I do. And I would go out and canvas. I had to. I would call absentee owners. I'd call the expireds, the old and new, and the FSBOs. And I would door knock a ton in those markets that I wanted to specialize in. And I did a lot of just listed, just sold, and hot market. And I had to churn those numbers. Now, over time, building your database and gathering leads, eventually that snowball compiles and compounds. And you'll have a month like I did, like a year later. I think it was my year. It was somewhere between year and a quarter, where in 1 month, boom, I got like 4 listings from people I had door knocked the year before that just happened to all convert, boom, 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 in a row. And that strung together like 5 or 6 transactions that I made well over $100,000 doing. And in those moments, you're like, this is incredible. All the times that you were in tears or like, man, this shit doesn't work. And why is it taking so long? You're like, yep, it was worth it. Because now, right, you're being paid for that. Now, that started the next step to catapult me to the next level. Because now I have multiple transactions, right? Now I'm going to start asking for referrals. It changes the game because you have your first blip in business where you're doing 3, 4, 5 transactions in a month or more. Now you have a new benchmark and you can work towards that, right? So that's how the momentum of this stuff builds, especially door knocking. Sometimes you might not get anything for a month or two, and then boom, the 3rd month, you get 2 or 3 listings and a buyer, right? So for those 90 days, you put together 5 or 6 transactions. So over those 3 months, it was 2 deals a month. You happen to get them in one wave, but if you average it out, it's not that bad. But as time goes on, those waves get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then your standard transaction amount always averages out. It's, 3 a month, 4 a month, 2 a month, 5 a month, and it starts climbing up. But you need that year and a half, depending on how hard you go, to build that momentum and get those waves. Where a lot of people mess up with door knocking is they do it for 1 to 3 months inconsistently and then sit there and complain that it's not working. If you're doing cold doors, like just sold, it takes time, guys. Some of you may be in markets that are lower price points where you'll start getting business right away. Fantastic, because the turnover rate is high, prices are affordable for people, people are moving, dealing and wheeling, and they're going. But some of you, like where I started back in 2013 to 14, the prices were already in the 5, 6, 700,000s. Now they're well over $1 million. That price point wasn't moving as quick, but when I got a deal, boom, I'd get a $15,000, $20,000 paycheck, which the first one changed my life. But the other guy who was selling 3 homes a month and getting a $2,000 commission check, you see, it's relative to your market. But what I would get in one check would take him 6 or 7 deals. Right? So you have to be conscious of where you're at. So for some of you in $1 million market, maybe the door knocking for a year only gets you a handful or 6 or 7 transactions, but that's going to equal probably multiple 6 figures versus the other person may have to do 40 or 50 deals to make that same amount. Right? But long-term is how you need to really tweak your thinking. It's not, oh, I'm just going to go out today and get 6 listing appointments and I'm good. You may get some appointments today or some good leads. Fantastic. That's going to happen. But if you stop door knocking, you kill your momentum. This aspect of door knocking, right? This strategy of door knocking builds more momentum and starts to work more and pay you off as you do it more and you do it consistently. Like as a bare minimum, bare minimum, I would say 50 to 75 doors a day, bare minimum 4 to 5 days a week. And I'm giving you the bottom line. I was doing 100 from the beginning, and you can really do 100. Unless maybe you live out in the boonies in a rural area where you live on farms and they're like half a mile apart. Okay, that's a little different. But if you live in a standard neighborhood like I do, you can knock on 100 doors if you're doing it right in 2.5 hours. Is that really that much time? What else are you doing, right? But when you do it consistently, you get the leads, you get the phone numbers, you get some now business, you're building your long-term. A year from now, if you're doing it right, building your database and doing all the basic stuff you're supposed to do as a realtor, you start to build a business, but it takes time. The opportunity is present for the people who put in the work consistently, have the systems, and get out there and do it. Okay. The mistake that I made was in the beginning, it was if you're not going to transact in a week or less, you don't exist to me. That was my mistake. But I stopped that after a couple of months. And then I thought back, dude, how many people's information could I have gotten? I could have gotten hundreds of people's information. If someone told me, no, I don't want to buy or sell, before they finished saying it, I was already walking to the next house. I was just like, I need a deal. I need a deal. I need a deal. Right? Is it any different knocking on $3 to $5 million doors? Yeah, it's easier because they're nicer. You're more likely to come across somebody who owns a business if they're home. They're going to appreciate your hustle. You get less objections. This is my experience working in luxury, right? I haven't sold a million luxury properties, but at this point in my career, I would say I've sold at least a dozen that are 1.5, 2 million and up. And every experience has been pleasant. I get more objections and bad attitudes at the door from the lower to medium price point than I ever do at the higher price point. Where we mess up, this is where people mess up, is the assumption already that a higher price home, oh shit, we have to be different. Agents are like, I'm going to kiss their ass, right? I'm not saying you guys do this, right? But there's like this inherent like, oh, I need to do something special, right? I need to wear a $10,000 suit. I need to be extra nice to them and brown nose them, right? And kiss their ass. And I need to, no, you don't have to do it, right? The best thing you can do is be sharp and professional. That's what you want to do. They may, compared to the average owner, if they're serious, they may test you a little bit, but that's just for them to verify that you're legit. That's it. And it's not even I think I'm better than you thing. They just want to make sure they're working with a professional. But the moment that you've passed that test, oh man, they're like I've worked with some lawyers. They're like, dude, get it done. I don't want to hear from you until the end or unless I need to sign something. I'm like, fantastic. You got it. Then I'd show up to their office if I had to. I already highlighted where you need to sign. You're signing this. They're like, okay, sign, get out. Cool. And then I get my paycheck and they're happy. Right? Because again, in most cases, you're dealing with a business owner, a high level professional. They want to know that they're dealing with another professional, someone like them. But that's everybody. People like other people that are like them. That's just what it is. So are you going to find some outliers? Sure. Maybe like somebody who's more street, who owns a $20 million home. Okay. But in general, it's simpler. It's our own mental projection of what it's supposed to be like is what messes us up. Then you make yourself nervous and all messed up when really it's just knocking on another door that is bigger, right? I don't know, homes worth 10 million plus and people were super nice. Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, unless you show up like a jackass, like if you show up drunk, yeah, they're going to be like, dude, get the hell out of here. But anybody will do that, right? What's the maximum time frame you would give the CX to take their info down? What do you mean by CX?
So that's me. So basically, if I'm at a customer's door and they say, "Oh, we're not looking to sell in the next 2-3 years," would you still take down their info?
Yes.
What's the maximum time?
No maximum time, because I'm looking at it this way. Like I think I mentioned it yesterday. There's people, actually, I may not have mentioned it. There's people that I've added to my database that I've never transacted with that have sent me referrals, right? Let's say you meet me, bro. Do you know how many people I know and talk to on a daily basis or on a weekly or monthly or yearly basis? You have no idea. But talking to me can possibly get you access to those people. So now you infiltrate a new network. By every person you guys add to your database, I think they say on average, most people know 50 to 100 people. You're potentially gaining access to all those other people, right? And that web keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. So I don't care if they want to transact or not. If we have a pleasant conversation over time, they see me as a professional and they trust me. When I check in with them or when they're hearing from me and one of their friends brings up that they want to buy or sell, they may refer them to you, or you have the opportunity to get that referral, where if you never added them, you wouldn't have that opportunity. That's the way I think about it.
So if they say 2 years from now that they want to sell, how often would you follow up with them? Once a month, once a quarter?
Depends on your system, dude. But like in my system, if they're more than a year out, it's quarterly. They'll get like a call or a text from me or something. If it's a year or less, then they're going to hear from me monthly. And then once they're a month or less, they get rolled into our lead follow-up system. And, it starts happening a lot more frequently. They get more calls, more texts, but all those systems that we have are connected. Lead follow-up, first level on the database, second level, third level, and we all roll it together. So if you follow mine, quarterly, and then less than a year, monthly. But if you guys have different programs you're on or different systems, you want to follow your system because it first starts with what your definition of a lead is. A lead to me and my team is somebody who's going to buy or sell in 30 days or less. If it's beyond that, they're not a lead. They're a database ad. Not until they're 30 days or less are they actually a lead put into our lead follow-up system, right? Is KV Core your main system? Yes. EXP provides KV Core. I love it. It's incredible. That is our system. I've used so many different ones. And once we got into KV Core, I was like, yes, finally something that has everything that I need. Let's see, happens a lot. What did I miss here? Any tips for owners that hide behind the screen? Yeah, I'll tell you this. This is a funny story, Robbie. I'm glad you asked that. There was a lady who I knocked. This is a listing that I ended up getting and selling. Her name was Denise. I remember her, right? Knocked on her door. She talks through the door. I'm super busy, and basically trying to shoo me away. I was like, great, well, I'm a local realtor. Do you need anything? Because she was being short with me. She's like, nah. I was like, cool. At some point, you think you guys are going to sell? She's like, oh yeah, like maybe like in 2 years, my mom, blah, 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 blah. I was like, great. Okay, you know what? I'll leave here. I'll hand you my phone. Just put in your information. She literally opens the door and cracks it, grabs my phone, puts in her info and gives it back to me and I leave. That's our interaction. It's like 30 seconds. Long story short, right? Put her in the system. She's getting the text, call every once in a while, emails. Literally, I think it was like 2 or 2.5 years later, she messages me. She texts me out of nowhere. Hey, you met me at my door. We're ready to sell the house. Then I call, whatever, set the appointment, and we list it. We end up selling it. I make like 20 something thousand dollars off that house because we sold it for like 650 or something. And that was our interaction. And I literally talked to her through the door. I couldn't even see her. I didn't even know what she looked like. So when I showed up, all I remember was what her hand looked like because she grabbed my phone, right? So the best thing you can do is not let it throw you off. If somebody wants to talk to the through the door or the screen, just act as if and treat them as if you're talking to them right in front of you. I just say, hey, can you hear me? They say, yes, great, blah, blah, blah. My name is Bryan. And I talk as if they're standing right in front of me. I know to the street, you look crazy because you're talking to a door, but hey, it works. And I've had people film me while I'm door knocking and we'll look at the video when I was talking to people through the door and you look like a nut job, but I'm getting people's information. I'm having conversations. It doesn't matter. So the only way you're going to have an issue with that sometimes, Robbie, is if you start acting weird, right? But in most cases, people will talk to you through the screen or through the door. They're just upset for whatever reason. And if I'm at the door and they're talking through the screen, one quick move you can do that potentially might get them to come out is I'll say, okay, great, no problem. Just to make you feel more comfortable, I'll give you more space and I'll walk back an extra couple steps. And some people will actually open the door or come out. So I give them even more space so they know I'm not a threat. All right, remember the move, hands up. Just pretend the police are pointing a gun at you and you'll put your hands up. Yeah, or at the window. Yeah, I'll talk to them through the window. I'm like, can you hear me? Yeah, boom, start talking. Not a problem.
Hey, Bryan.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, on Monday, I knocked on this person's door. They told me to come on Thursday at 10 a.m. So yesterday, I followed up with them. The customer said, yes, that's fine. Come, I'll let you know if anything. Should I follow up today one more time just to confirm completely or just show up? Because I need my broker to come as well. We're going to split the commission because it's my first deal.
Did you qualify them already?
I did. He's willing. He's looking to sell.
So like the sheet that I told you in the script book, you asked them all those questions and confirmed?
Well, he was in a rush. I just told him, are we still good for Thursday, 10 a.m.? He said, yes, I'll let you know if anything.
Okay. Since your broker's going to go, I don't know their process. Maybe it's different. For future reference, though, you always want to qualify people because you don't know what you're walking into. Let's say he says that, then you guys show up and he's like, well, I'm thinking about selling in 6 months. You're not going to get a listing. You're just going to waste your time. So even if I say they're in a rush,
he's looking to sell like right now.
Okay, I understand what he said, but you didn't qualify him, is what I'm getting at, right? They will tell you that, and maybe it works out, bro. You may go in there and it's a slam dunk. Hopefully it is, but more often than not, they say that, and then a different story comes up about why they can't sign or they're not ready now. And if you would have qualified them, you would have found out, right? So you always want to do that. No matter what they say, I'm in a rush. You always want to qualify them. Now, based on your question, yes, I always set people up. I say, great, we're good for tomorrow. I'm just letting you know, Mr. Seller, when I'm on my way, I'm going to call you or text you. All I need from you is a confirmation, because if I don't get a confirmation from you, I'm going to assume that we have to reschedule. Fair? And they'll say yes, because you always want to confirm. The worst thing you can do is assume, you show up, knock on the door, and then they don't answer. So always confirm, always confirm.
Thanks.
And the biggest lesson I can give you from that is, remember, what people say versus what they actually do are two different things in many cases. His question is great. I've lost count of how many sellers have told me that in the beginning, and I skipped steps and then I didn't get the listing, right? Now, again, hopefully it works out. Hopefully the seller's like, yeah, I'm ready to sign. You don't even have to present. I'll pay you your commission, no problem, right? Because that happens every once in a while. But you always want to make sure, no matter what they say or how they're acting, you always follow the steps. You set the appointment, you fully pre-qualify them, and then you go to the appointment. You confirm before you go, you do your presentation, and you get it done, right? What is the dialogue if you knock on the doors next to the expired? Well, whatever you want it to be, Harold. Normally, I will just do a just listed, just sold. I'll do a market update, or I'll just tell them, hey, I was stopping by, knocking on the neighbor's door. They tried to sell and were unsuccessful. The Johnsons here, do you know them? Well, great. Well, since I was in the neighborhood, I'd figure I'd talk to some of the neighbors. When are you guys planning on potentially making a move? Great. How long have you been here? Boom, boom, boom. And we're right in the dialogue. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just go with the flow, do a hot market script that just listed, just sold. It doesn't really matter, right? What you guys need to do is, the only thing that's really going to change when you guys door knock at all, if ever, is your introductory line. If it's a FSBO, if it's an expired, that's it. If you're just in a neighborhood, I've even told people, I want to sell in this neighborhood and I'm here. I want to establish myself as the expert. Do you need any help? Great. How long have you guys lived here? And I've said that before, right? I've also gone door knocking and said, hey, you thinking about selling your house? I'm a realtor. They say no or yes. And then I continue the conversation, right? I wouldn't get too caught up on that. Just make sure you ask the main questions. How long have you been here? Where did you move from? What brought you to this area? If you guys were to move, where would you go next? And then adding some of those filler questions that I've given you guys. Like, what do you like about the neighborhood? What do you not like, right? Any other questions, y'all?
Hey, Bryan, I have a quick question.
Shoot.
So I contacted a expired, and he expired at around 700, but he is worth about 600. And
Okay.
So I think my mistake was I gave him the price before giving him a presentation because he pushed for it. And at first he was like, hey, I don't know anyone in Seattle, so it'd be awesome if I could work with you. I gave him the price, and then he got super defensive, and he's like, I know a lot of people in Seattle, so I have lots of options. And then I called to follow up with him, and he was like, hey, bro, I'll call you if I decide to work with you. You don't need to call me anymore, bro. So, I still want to follow up with him because he needs to sell. So. Yeah.
Well, you can, man, but that's just a classic example. Every seller is going to try to dig out of you your commission and your price because, in a seller's eyes, that's the only way they know how to choose an agent, right? They don't understand anything else. And in their mind, that's the criteria. So if you fall into that trap of just giving that to them and going based on their criteria, you put yourself in a bad position because they're already talking to you, assuming that you and every other agent's the same. And all they need to do is find the highest potential list price and the lowest commission, right? Mm-hmm. Now, moving forward, you can follow up with him. It becomes increasingly more difficult because in their mind, he's already put you in the category of, I'm not going to work with this guy, or I can do better. So it's like a very uphill battle. What you need to determine based on your conversations with him, however many you've had, is there a genuine motivation there to sell to where he'll accept a realistic price? Because if there isn't, I would just say throw him in your database and move on to somebody else in respect to an actual bona fide lead. Because that's what all of you guys are going to deal with, whether it's an expired or a regular owner, is if there's a gap in price or whatever their expectations are, if their expectations are here and reality's here, it's not going to work, right? Unless their motivation is through the roof. Like, hey, Slater, I got to be in Chicago in 30 days. We got to go. That's somebody who's extremely motivated and they're going to have to accept the price. But if they have no motivation, no reason to sell, and they just want 700 and it's worth 600, it doesn't matter how magical of a salesman you are, they're not going to sign, right? So that's the game that you guys always have to play with people. And in regards to the follow-up, a quick way you guys can really build on your follow-up is just continue your conversation from last time. So if you ended that you were going to get him a piece of information, or that you were going to check in with him in a week, or see where he was at, or in this case, I would call and say, hey, have you chosen an agent yet? I haven't given up on you. Oh, I haven't chosen an agent. Okay, then what are you looking for? I really think it would be worth 10 minutes of your time for us to get together. When are you available? And if he's out of the area, when are you available to Zoom? Let's talk. And keep pushing it that way. That's all you can really do at that point. But for future reference, all of you, you never give a set price or commission over the phone before you meet with them. Challenge them. Somebody tells me a FISBO, I need to know your commission. And you know what my response is? Mr. Seller, is that the way you're going about choosing an agent? It's just a commission? And they're going to be like, well, yeah, I want the cheapest one, or I want to know what they're going to charge. Great. Can I share with you why that's probably not the best choice? Would you want to know the actual best criteria to choose agents with? I'm reframing the conversation. Now, he might tell me screw off or no. That's okay. But guess what? I never gave up my position. But I'm coming from like a consultative, educative standpoint, right? And that's ultimately one of the ways you guys can start flipping expireds and FISBOs and a lot of people is coming from an education-based question format that you come. Because I can say, look, would you agree with me, Mr. Seller, that it's probably more important how well I can negotiate versus how much I charge for commission? Because the standard commission is what, Mr. Seller? He's like, oh, it's 6%. It's a lot. Great. But 94% is what you keep, correct? Wouldn't you want an agent who can maximize that 94% and get you more, or fight to keep every penny for you? Now, if that person could negotiate an extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for you, would that be more important than 1 or 2 points of commission? I don't know. What do you think? See, I haven't said what my commission is. I'm elaborating for you guys, right? You don't have to say all this, but I'm giving you points, right? Now, again, how do you know my negotiation ability if I just give you my commission and the price over the phone? Are you really making an educated choice on the agent that you're choosing? Or are you just simply picking on what sounds good? If I give you a price on the phone, Mr. Seller, and I haven't even seen your house, am I being transparent and honest with you? How can I possibly give a price to something I haven't seen? Oh, well, I told you this and that. Well, what if I show up and it's different? What if your 10 out of 10 to a buyer is an 8 out of 10? Right? I know how a buyer thinks and how an appraiser thinks. And is it safe to say that a buyer and appraiser think differently than me and you? I'm giving you guys little blips that you can give you. This is how I hate to use the word, right? You know, when you say you sun somebody, it's like, hey, son, sit down. This is what I do with FISBOs and expireds. I sun them, right? But all I'm doing, if you really listen to it, I'm not being aggressive. I'm not being condescending. All I'm doing is dropping facts on them in a particular way. That's what we have to do. Whether you're doing lead follow-up, whether you are having a conversation at the door, is this. All I'm doing is relaying specific information and presenting scenarios that are true in a question-based format, right? Let's see. How do you end it to get their info if they can't do anything, but maybe down the road, or if they don't, anyone down the road? The same way I gave you the script in the beginning. I think it was yesterday, Harold. Great. Well, in the future, or at any point, you or someone you know need anything, do you have a go-to person? It's the same script.
Hey, Brian, I called an expired recently and he was in the market for a whole year. And he told me that his agent told him that she wasn't really good at bringing in buyers and that's why the house stayed on the market. So I was wondering if I should just bring him like a comp at his door instead of just following up with him on the phone. Should I just show up?
I mean, you can, right? That would definitely be powerful because meeting somebody in person is different and most agents won't do it. Man, but if somebody told me that, I would almost laugh. I would be like, Mr. Seller, do you have any idea the type of market that we're in? Like if I or my company or my team, you know, whatever you're on right now, were to put your home for sale, your home would be crawling with buyers. Like the moment I stick the sign in the front yard, like I would put it in the front yard and then your door would just fall with buyers. So me hearing that tells me something is off. This is what I would say, right? The fact that we're in the craziest market ever and you sat for a year, something is seriously wrong.
Yeah.
I would
Totally.
push. I don't know if you did. I would push so hard for an appointment.
Yeah.
And I would literally be like, and this is what you guys can do, right? For those of you who are going after listings, I always in the other terms section of my contract, I give people an out if they want to get out. I say, look, yeah, the standard contract is 3 months or 6 months, but I write in the other terms. If you want to cancel after 30 days, you can cancel, or you guys can put whatever you want. I've even had situations where I tell them you can cancel at any time. I put my money where my mouth is. However, if I put that in, you're meeting with me, because that's pretty risky for me to give you the opportunity to cancel at any time. Would you agree? All right. I'm willing to do that if you're willing to meet with me and give me a shot. Pretty convincing if you tell them that, right? Because I would say, look, I'll have so many people crawling through your home. I'll have an offer. Like, we just listed a house here with one of the new guys that I recruited on my team here in Miami. He got 12 offers in like 24 hours. And the guy, same thing. He sat for 3 or 6 months and didn't sell. So if you are confident that you can do that, you really need to push. I would go in person and say that.
Okay.
And say, like, you could literally, sir, sign right now. And by the time you get the pen off the page, 3 buyers will be in your house.
Okay. And then, yeah, because he told me, he was like, well, I think it was a blessing in disguise because houses are just so expensive. And, the same spiel that they give you, like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So,
Right.
Okay, I'll show up.
Yeah,
Thanks,
definitely.
Bryan.
If there's motivation there, right? Like, you guys have to think of it this way. It's right now, it's literally, unless there's like almost borderline foul play, it's impossible for a seller not to sell unless they themselves pulled off the market, or like the agent was being shady and trying to double end it. For those of you who have dual agency in your state, like, some foul thing has to happen for them not to sell, or it has to be a grossly incompetent agent, right? Like, would you guys agree with me with this market? It's pretty, like, yeah, I could literally put a cardboard box out in front of my house and put a for sale sign and it'll sell for like $200,000 at this point, right? Like, it's ridiculous. So when I hear that, I really go after those people and make sure they're motivated. So you want to double check that, but I really push and say, dude, we need to meet. And if you guys don't have a personal story of like a expired that then you took and sold, use my example and say, my trainer or my coach or my partner did this, and use their examples. Say, we took somebody in your situation and we got them 12 offers in 24 hours, right? What if we listed today and tomorrow I brought you 12 offers? What would you do? Right? Paint that picture for them. That will get them a lot more likely to agree to meet with you, because now you're painting a picture in their mind that seems like what they want, right? This is a game of dropping facts on people, but painting a picture for them. So emotionally they start feeling like, oh, that this is good. I want to meet with her. Yeah, let's get together, right? This is what entices them. That's the word, to meet with you. That's what you want. But do you guys see how, like, even in this example, when she was telling me, even I was like, like, that has to come across when you guys are at the door or on the phone. Like, I'm literally sitting with them, like, in person. Like, I would grab my glasses and throw it and be like, are you kidding me, dude? Right? Like, that's what sells, because it demonstrates that you care and that you're serious about what you're talking about. Most realtors are going to show up like, hi, Mr. Seller. Yeah, I heard your story and I can definitely sell your house. Like, they're so dead, right? And I've had situations where I'll be at a listing appointment and a fucking seller will like invite 3 of us over, right? This is when I was new, because I don't do that anymore. But I'll sit there and I just annihilate the other guys because I just take over the interaction because I'm so energetic. Like, they don't even have a chance to talk. That's what you want, to where you're undeniable. But the emotions that I'm trying to convey, I'm demonstrating. You can't help but listen to what I'm saying and be like caught up in the story. Like, oh shit, yeah, he's right. You know what I'm saying? That's something that all of you, especially door knocking, you have to add that to your game. And maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow, because that's that extra X factor that keeps people entertained. And I'll end it like this. If you guys have ever seen that guy going door to door, it's super funny. Kenny Brooks, he's that guy that was selling like the window washer or like the all-purpose cleaner going door to door, the black dude that was like really funny. He's a good example of somebody who maybe from a technical standpoint, like if we're going to talk like NLP and all that stuff, doesn't know it, but he knows how to keep people engaged and entertained, right? Like, he was going to a house. He's like, man, you guys got more windows here than Microsoft. Like, he's saying funny stuff like that to keep people engaged. Watch the video, but pay attention to his mannerisms, his energy, and how he smiles. That's something that maybe you're not going to copy exactly at the door, but it's something you need to bring to the table. Because if you ain't bringing energy and you ain't up in the mood when you talk to people, they want nothing to do with you. Think about when you guys go out at night. Who do you talk to? your friends, people that entertain you, people that bring you good vibes. You don't want to talk to Debbie Downers and party poopers and the people who are just very low energy. You want to get that away from you. You want to talk to people who stimulate your mind and in the environment and make you have a good time and feel more comfortable. That's what you got to bring when you guys come to the door. Cool. All right, y'all. I'm gonna end it here.
I got
Okay.
one more question.
Go ahead. Make it quick.
Yeah, I'm just curious for you, man, when you started door knocking, like obviously as you talk about all this stuff, you can see the skill levels. So how long do you feel like it took you from like day one until the point of like, all right, I'm going out doing this every day and I just feel like I'm at the point now where I'm really good at this? You know, because in the beginning you start out, you kind of, it's, you know, maybe you feel a little bit uncomfortable or whatever, and you have to go through that beginning phase. But for yourself, how long did you find that took you?
Man, okay, there's a couple pieces to that puzzle, right? A lot of that has to do with your self-esteem too, because in the beginning, my confidence level personally wasn't high. So I was only like maybe 2 months in, and I actually door knocked somebody that knew my broker, and they ended up calling my broker like, yo, one of your new agents knocked on my door. He's really good. He's solid. But in my mind at the time, I was like, I'm not even that good yet, right? So in my kind of like my own system and my own self-esteem and confidence, and for myself, I didn't feel like I was really solid good for at least 6 months to a year, to where I was at least comfortable, like, okay, I'm pretty good at this thing. And then maybe 2 or 3 years in to be like, all right, I got this shit down, you know? But again, look at the effect of everything that I did. I'm knocking on 100 doors a day, virtually every day. I'm now producing stuff on social media, right? I'm going to events. I'm reading a lot of books. Like, this was a complete process. It wasn't just door knocking. I was also going out like at night, 1 or 2 days a week, you know, during my lunch break, and just approaching people like at malls and talking to them just to build my confidence level, like approaching strangers and all that. I did a lot, man, but it took to really feel like, okay, I got this. It took about 2 or 2.5 years to really feel like I got this thing down at like a higher level. Cool. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.